Are you ready for cocktails and conversation? This is Herspiration Happy Hour. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of Herspiration Happy Hour. This is like our back episodes every week. You can find us here from 7 to 8 p.m. I'm loving this change. This is your unapologetic diva, Dr. G.
And this is Louisa Harrell, the Blue Phoenix.
And the girlfriend therapist will be joining us shortly, as well as Tessina T. Weezy will be joining us a little bit later in the show as well. What's going on? What's our drink for today, Louisa?
Okay, so for today, we have a cocktail called French 75. Now, this cocktail was invented, I think, around World War I. And excuse my shirt, y'all, it's crazy. But anyway, so we have 1 1/4 ounce cognac, 1/4 ounce simple syrup, and 1/4 ounce fresh lemon juice. This is a simple cocktail. You shake all three ingredients over ice and strain into a champagne flute. And it was 4 ingredients. And you top off with a champagne of your choice, and then garnish with a lemon peel.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I remember, that drink is actually one of my favorites that I like to just like drink now and again. Yeah, a few places will have it, and it can be made various ways. But a French 75, hey, I was also born in 1975, so I might be partial. Okay. How has your week been?
This was kind of wild. The children were home today, and they'll be home tomorrow because they have parent-teacher conferences. But they go back to school Friday. Why not just let them be out Friday?
I was going to say, that's kind of weird.
Oh, these schools. And so everybody's all the way live because they don't have school, and then they're making noise. I'm pretty sure you can hear them. But other than that, I just been running around doctor's appointments and talking to other, just running around doing things. How's your week?
It's been extremely stressful. I'm not one of those people that feel like I need to like blast, personal, very, very, very extremely personal things about my life. But it's just it's been a very trying week. Had family emergency this past Sunday, and still I'm in Savannah, Georgia right now. So yeah, it's been that kind of time for me. I've hardly slept. So this is a very interesting time. And I already have insomnia. So having insomnia and then not being able to sleep because of stress takes on a whole different level of things. But things that I have to say are progressing very well. And, I'm planning to go home Sunday, hopefully, or I might extend another week here. Right now, things are kind of uncertain about that. But life hands you things and you give it to God and you really pray about it. And you have to know that, your family members are in their hands. So that's kind of been my week. It's been rough, but yeah, I'm hanging in there. Very much so.
Well, of course, we extend the healing and loving and prayer and comfort to you and your family.
Thank you.
Because right now, that's all we can do, and to send love and hugs to you because it's your family and you're dealing with it as well.
Yeah, but you take care of those who always take care of you. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to be of service, and just gonna pray every night and continue to give it to God and know that things are going to work out the way that it's supposed to. So. But, every Wednesday we have our WCWs, and I see, like I said, you all see the girlfriend therapist up there, but she will be with us, joining us shortly. It's the life of a therapist. But yeah, we highlight different women to be our crushes of the week. And so, Louisa, you said you have yours. You're muted.
I'm sorry, my hair just won't.
Look at here. That's what happens. Look here, when you have a live show, if it can happen, it happens.
I'll fix it in a minute. But while we do this, I don't know what in the world.
Hey,
Don't continue with my head trying to do what I want to do.
okay. So while if you want to turn your camera off and hold pause on your you can
Yeah,
do that.
I'll let Cortina talk for a second.
Okay. So y'all, while Louisa can get her hair together, I'll go ahead and talk about my WCW, and then Cortina, you can talk about your WCW. My WCW today is Bessie Virginia Blunt. And y'all gonna have to be patient with me, because you know what I just remembered? Thank God you could blow up iPhones, because I can't see worth a squat. So but her name is Bessie Virginia Blunt. She was a pioneer and considered one of the first physical therapists and inventor and scientist. And she was a Black woman. So shout out to her. She was born in Hickory, Chesapeake. Well, it's called Chesapeake now. So believe it or not, Chesapeake, Virginia used to be called Hickory, Virginia. She was born November 24th, 1914. She was a woman of many talents, but I want to highlight her today for being, the first Black physical therapist. So shout out. And, she's passed away already, of course, but at the same time, I still felt like, I want to highlight women who people really don't know about and should know about.
Good. Well, I'm a little stuffy and sick. I don't feel good.
And yet you showed up. Oh my gosh. See, the love we have over our fans.
Right. So I actually I don't have a particular Women Crush Wednesday. I guess I'm going to dedicate today's Women Crush Wednesday for me to all of our female listeners and individuals who tune in. So it's important, that you are your own woman crush sometimes. And so I want to dedicate today's Wednesday to, again, all of our female listeners, not minimizing the men who listen. I don't want you all to feel left out. However, this is when we highlight women doing amazing things. And the fact that you show up every day in your life, I don't care if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's a job I wouldn't want because it's really hard. Or whether you run a business, whether you're just an employee, or whether you're a sister friend, or a mom, or a caretaker, whatever that is, it takes a lot to show up every day and give what you have, even if you don't feel like you can give it 100%, whatever it is in your capacity to be able to give, that's enough. And so being able to applaud yourself and pat your own self on the back, I just want to honor all of our female listeners, and they are the WCW, well, my WCWs for today.
Oh, I love all of that. So shout out to all the women out here that we are loving on today. And from Critique for Cortina, all of our female listeners. So you got yourself together now.
Just be a little coy. Just be a little coy.
Okay.
So,
Lisa, who is your WCW today?
Okay, so I went back, and my WCW is Sadie TM or Tanner Mossell Alexander. She was born on January 2nd, 1898. She died November 11th, 1989. She is actually the first African American woman to receive a PhD in economics. Yeah, and also the first woman to receive a law degree from the University of Pennsylvania. University of Pennsylvania Law School, I'm sorry. And then she also is the first African American woman to practice law in Pennsylvania, which she followed in her father's footsteps, Aaron Albert Musell. And all this happened in Pennsylvania. She was born and she never left, and she died in Pennsylvania. So I just want to give a shout out to Sadie T.M. Alexander. And the reason I found her, one of my friends, I don't know how she found her, but she was looking up different things and saw her, and one of her pictures, I resemble her. And I was like, what? She was like, are you related to this woman? I'm like, what are you talking about? And so when, when I saw it, I was like, oh, I don't think so. But she sure is pretty. But but then I went and researched. I was like, wow, that would be so dope if I was. But even though I'm not, she's awesome. So
Well, you never know. You never know. You would be related and not even know it. Philadelphia is really close to Washington, D.C. You never know.
That's true. Couple of hours, you're there.
Yeah. So we talked about, your week, Cortina. You said you wasn't feeling well, but how was your week overall so far? Just not been.
Yeah, just I'm trucking along. I'm trying as best as I can to show up without overexerting myself. So
I know that feeling. That's been me the last few days. Still managing to write and answer emails and get all of that other stuff done just to kind of distract the brain. And I know, one of the things that Tessina and I had talked about after the last podcast was, really starting to at least have some conversations, every episode about just briefly mentioning the importance of mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, at a time, it's just because it's Black History Month. I know that they're shining light on all the positives and stuff about, Black history and just everything supporting Black. As a part of that, let's make this month a habit to not just to this month, but every month checking in on your mental health. So, before we bring our guest up, that's something that, we felt like was necessary to highlight. I mean, you see Cortina here and she's having her own personal, battles and feelings. I'm here, I'm having my own personal battles, and mental health is definitely in the forefront. So I want people to know that. And that's why I was just sharing that. Yes, I'm in Georgia. I had a family emergency, but I'm still trying to make sure that I have my own level of sanity so that I can maintain my own mental health to be able to be available for my family, because there's nothing, you can't help anyone if you are not taking care of yourself. So get out of the space of feeling as though, oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And you're not really that fine. This is not a good time to be putting up fronts on anything. Make sure that you are eating, making sure that you are hydrating, and making sure that you have an outlet to talk to somebody and talk transparently about exactly how you are feeling, and find someone who is unjudging. This is the critical thing when it comes to discussing who and what you feel and who you feel those things about, even if it's about yourself. So I'm encouraging everyone to really take the time, to focus on your mental health, not just today, but every day. Cortina, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, sometimes a lot of people, they hide really what they're feeling, and you would never know it. So you would think that this is the strongest person and they're always there for everybody. And sometimes the person who appears to be the strongest is actually the person who needs the most help. We're not just assuming that, oh, they got it together, I can just lay some more stuff onto them. That might not necessarily be the case, because they might have an issue with the ability to say no. And so a lot of times people who are strong, who feel like I have to show up, because if I don't show up, my friends are going to think I'm not dependable or whatever. I have to be that rescuer. Sometimes giving your friends the ability to not have to always have it together and not have to feel like they always have to show up and be there and perform. Just knowing that they have someone to say, you know what, it's okay. You don't have to do all of that. You don't have to always have it together. It doesn't always have to be great. It's okay for it to not be okay. And it's okay for you to ask me for help, without judgment. Putting those type of parameters in place is very important for individuals who don't know anything else except for showing up, because showing up is an option. Well, it is. And just because you ask for help, that's still you showing up. That's you showing up for yourself, because you need additional support. So that's it.
Yeah. So, and speaking of, so we have, one of the things about Black women, especially, and a lot of women, I won't even just categorize it as Black women, but Black women are not really prone to really show who they are a whole lot, for fear of other things. So I'm going to bring up our guest, who I need to find out how in the world she balances, everything that she do. Our guest tonight is Tonya McKenzie, who is not only the founder of Sand and Shores, but she's also a public relations and leadership consultant. Now, if anybody who knows PR, that's a hell of a job. Yeah, I see her down there like, oh yeah, shaking her head. Yeah, so we're going to bring Tonya because we're talking. Hey, before we really get into conversations, first, Tonya, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, because I want to know how you balance these three very complex, I would say very complex career options, or choices rather, not even options, but career choices that you have chosen for yourself.
I'm glad you said that, because some of the things I didn't even choose, they kind of chose me, right? What, Plymouth Rock didn't fall? Whatever. So I am a PR consultant, PR and leadership. That came from years of working for organizations that did not have marketing budgets. What happens when you don't have money? The first thing that goes is marketing. But everybody wants to know why their business failed. Well, when I started working in the Bay Area, I worked for a YMCA that was probably about as big as my living room, and they wanted a mega facility, but they didn't have the money. So long story short, I started finding ways to connect with the media so that they could come in and see what we were trying to do. I was living in Contra Costa County at the time, and if you know anything about the Bay Area, that was where Richmond, California is, and it was around the Stockton area. So it didn't have a lot of money, but there was a lot of people moving into the area, and there was more people looking like us. When I moved to the city called Oakley, everybody looked like this. And as I lived there, continues to live there, it got a little more and more melanated. So I definitely wanted to see more opportunities for young people in particular, right? So I just started contacting the media about the stories, and they started picking up on some of the stories that I was putting out there. And I also learned that, well, if they're not covering my stories, let me see what they are covering, and let me go make a story. That I know how to do also. So let's go see what they want to talk about, what they're trying to cover. And most of it was an opportunity to really get them to recognize the stories behind the story. And most people don't know how to tell their story. Like, who are you and why should I care? That's what I always ask. And if you cannot explain to me who you are and why should I care about that, or why the media should care about that, then it's not going to move the needle. So learning how to get people to tap into those things that resonate with their target audience, who their target audience is, and in particular, nonprofit and civic organizations, because they don't really look at themselves as a brand like they should. You have a brand promise to the community that you serve, right? So police departments, city council people, all of those people that serve their community, they think, well, we're just doing our job. We don't need PR. No, you do, because you get tax dollars and your customer is actually the community that you serve. So you need to explain to them what you're doing with the money that they get, and getting them to recognize that the stories behind the story are what's important. How do you change the quality of life of the people that you are servicing? Like, tell those stories, because I think at the end of the day, that's really what matters to the people in the community. Like, what are you doing with my money? So, that's my profession, but I'm also a gun violence survivor. So at the age of 5, I witnessed my mom get shot and her boyfriend get murdered right in front of me and his son. I don't know what happened to him, okay? Because back in the day, people didn't really ask kids, how you doing? Police came in, the ambulance came in, they took my mom off, they took me to my grandmother's house. I went to school on Monday. That was a Saturday morning. I went to school on Monday. Nobody ever asked me how I was doing. I just continued to live day to day. And I actually thought my mom had passed. Some men came to my school one day, some nice gentlemen in suits, and picked me up and took me and put me on an airplane, and I sat next to my mom. So I wound up in a federal witness protection program. We stayed there for some months. After the trial was over and he was convicted, my mom had perjured herself on the stand. So we wound up spending some time in a federal prison for women with children. And after that, we did a stint in like a homeless shelter because she couldn't get along with people, and it was just a whole messy life that sometimes we deal with, and we never look back on it to see how it affected us, and we never really resolve the things that happened during those times of trying to get it together and understand these things weren't your fault, and that doesn't need to be your future if you choose for it to not be your future. So I became a child advocate, like off top, and recognizing that a lot of things happen to kids when they are young, but that is not your fault. You had no control over that. But we internalized a lot of that stuff. Why my dad wasn't around? Why was my mom, um, you know, an addict? Why this and why that? How much of it had to do with me? As you get older, you start recognizing these things. And I wanted to make sure that the work that I did, the responsibility of myself was to make things better for others, better than I got it. So leaving this world better for our youth, then I got it. That's my responsibility. That's why I'm still here. And I definitely don't want my existence to be in vain. So that has just been part of my legacy. And a part of that is also finding solutions, right? It's not just complaining about it and being sad about what you don't have, but okay, so now how can we fix this? There's not enough resources for our youth. What can we do? Who do I talk to? And I don't have a lot of patience, so I have to be a part of the solution. That's how I wound up, I think, becoming a LA County commissioner, because we got problems in LA County, okay? But people that can solve problems, bridge gaps, find solutions, work with the opposite side to make sure that we can agree on certain things, especially when it comes to our young people. That, in essence, has really been my strength, and I guess just part of being a Black woman. Like, we want stuff to happen, and I ain't got time to be waiting for nobody else to make it happen. So you just tell me where to go so we can do this thing, and I'm gonna go bring my girlfriends or whoever else want to help with this. And maybe you don't want to help with this, maybe you want to help with the next thing, because there's always something to do. So at the end of the day, I do the things that bring me joy, that help me leave a legacy, and hopefully to leave things better than I got them. Because girl, hot mess, okay, whole mess.
I have no idea where to even start. That was a lot to take in, a lot, especially when we're talking about mental health and all of those things. But so before we get to that, because I feel like that's going to segue. I got a therapist over here up at the top, so I know her mind is going.
I was like, yes,
yeah. So and I'm a big mental health advocate. I advocate heavily. I used to be in psychology and therapy back in the day, prevention. I was always on prevention programs. I wanted to be a part of things before they escalated. But that's a whole nother lifetime. But really quick, I want to let people know before we really get on the top to have this other conversation. When you talked about PR and about selling a story, I wrote a book called the PR Prep Guide because I felt like people don't really understand what public relations is really about from this side. As a client, as a journalist, and then just as somebody who does a la carte PR stuff. People have to understand there's a huge difference in something that you said. I'm getting ready to piggyback off of. You have to know the difference between telling your story and selling your story. People have no idea. You can have a story all day, but can you sell it? So you can be out here telling people, but that's not marketing just because you tell somebody something. How do you sell your story? That's what's going to make the impact, that's going to become who you are when it comes to public relations. And so people go in wanting to tell their story and expect their publicist to tell their story over and over and over again, because a publicist will work with what they have. As a client, I will tell you, you have a responsibility. Your therapist does not work in a vacuum. They can't be great unless you're great. And you can't be great unless they have everything they need to make you great. So if you're a small business and you are not putting forward marketing dollars, because that's what PR is, it's marketing, it's a strategic marketing plan that's not meant, I will say this, it is not meant to make you money. It is meant to give you exposure so that you, the client, can go out and sell your story, because they can get you a story. And if you get out there and you are not prepared, you're going to be eaten alive or you're going to be ignored. 100%. So there are prep things that you need to know what to do before you would even entertain getting a publicist. That's why I wrote my book, because I used to feel like, and I went through I went through publicists at first. But then I had to hold myself accountable because I didn't understand, but I also didn't ask to understand. I just went off of what they told me, and I had an expectation that that's what they owed me. So I want, I want to speak on behalf of publicists out here who are doing a phenomenal job, because there are some shoddy ones out here, but you have to do your due diligence. And the other part, really quick, I would say about this, because this stuff be heavy, because this is why people be having meltdowns and fall apart and mental, just when it comes to a publicist and you say to somebody, well, I want references, sometimes that can be a breach. Publicists cannot just go providing their client information because you want to talk to them. Another thing, if you really want to know how to find out if they're a good publicist, how they write, it's media. Look at who's on their client roster. Google their companies. Look at their press releases that they have put out. You will then know a lot of information about your publicist. Do your damn homework before you start holding these publicists accountable for doing their job and you didn't do yours. So that's my rant for that. I'm telling you, you have no idea, how much people get frustrated, go into these laps of depression because they've spent all of this money. And they're blaming everybody. There's woe is me. And you never know what's contributing to other mental health things that you have going on and how strong you are. And venting doesn't help. If you vent and then somebody say, well, it looks fine to me. There's no guarantees when you pay a publicist. A publicist is paid to do something. Now, unless you want to pay to play and you don't mind, then that's fine. But at the same time, all I can say is do your homework. But that's why I wrote the book, because I got tired of people feeling like calling me for a reference. I said, my story and your story is different. We can have the same PR and I can be doing this and you just doing this. Uh-huh. So I'm in defense of what you do. And so I definitely agreed about just having a story and just being out there and cutting your marketing dollars off of something that's essential. The other thing is, just because you're a business does not mean that you need media.
Are you newsworthy? This is the deal. I love that. I love all of that. It's important. Couple things. Marketing is you telling people how amazing you are. PR is other people telling other people how amazing you are. So you have to be doing something for other people to want to spread the word about you, whether that's your product or your service or something that you are doing has to be, it has to improve quality of life some kind of way. So you got to step out of your own way and think, how am I improving the quality of life for someone else? What am I doing that's dynamic? And I need you to be able to enunciate that for me, because I'm going to be your cheerleader, but you still got to play the game. Like you got to play. I'm going to be a cheerleader. I'm going to be loud. I got the megaphone. I got all my tools, but you're going to need to play. You got to. And then that's the other thing is they think, well, I hired you, so you do everything. No, boo, that's not how this works. I can't be more excited about your project than you are. I can't be more excited about your book than you are. I can't be more excited about your event than you are. You can't just hire me and go sit down on the couch. That's not how this works. And lastly, you're talking about PR, but the truth of the matter is any service type of business, you always wind up being somebody's therapist, right? So I used to be a fitness trainer. I mean, they would pay and then come out instead of working out, want to talk about all their problems. I swear to God, this woman started smoking a cigarette one day. We went out for a run and she just needed to talk and smoke her cigarette, but she felt like she was paying a couple $100 an hour. So it was all good. Listen, therapists are underutilized and applauded for the work that they do, because anybody that does service work always winds up listening to somebody's stuff, getting veered off the beaten path of what y'all supposed to be doing, and you wind up finding out about they marriage, they mama, they drama. Listen, I need to make sure I got you on speed dial so I can just keep sending them.
Oh my gosh. And so what is Sand and Shores? Because, I want to talk about that, because you do PR leadership and leadership consulting, and then you have Sand and Shores. Tell me what prompted the development and creation of Sand and Shores.
So Sand and Shores is the PR and leadership firm, and we are in Redondo Beach, California. One of the things that I wanted to do when I started my firm is make sure that if I decided to sell, it wasn't something that just stuck with me, right? Because the point of, I think a lot of, especially us, we forget that the point of actually starting a business and building a business is hopefully to sell the business and profit off of the sale. So you build a business, that's what people do. They build businesses and then they sell them. So I wanted to make sure it meant something, and that it wasn't attached to just me. So Sand and Shores, I live here. My husband started a firm also. He was in tech, and he went off and started his own firm, and it's Red Beach Advisors. Mine is Sand and Shores. We're in Southern California. I just wanted it to be something that resonated with the community that I lived in. I think I've always been I want to work in the community that I'm going to serve. Whatever I do, I wanted it to be able to be something in the community that I live in, because again, I'm also someone that wants to get involved, because I'm not going to just complain about it. I'm going to find out who my city council person is. If there's issues with my kids' school, I need for them to know who I am, because that's part of being a civil servant and a responsible member of the community. So I wanted to make sure that it resonated. So we live by the beach, and a lot of us don't live by the beach in LA. We live in Ladera, and we want to be in Hollywood. For me, serenity has always been beachside. So even when I was in high school, I'm from the Bay Area, we would do our camps, our summer camps, and I was a cheerleader, and we would do it at Santa Cruz. It was a lot colder there than it is here. But those, especially with my childhood, the way that I grew up, I started recognizing that the beach brings me serenity. I can relax, I can refresh, I can think, I can strategize. So with my business, the name really came from me wanting to provide a service that would let my clients know, I got you. So now you can go be serene while I take care of the stuff that I'm supposed to take care of.
Now, the way that you got to California, because I know you said, they put me on a plane, I was next to my mom. Is that where you all were located, and that's how you ended up there? Or were you someplace else and then you moved out there?
So I'm from the Bay Area. The murder actually happened in Palo Alto, California.
Oh, so it was in California too.
Yeah. Okay. And we wound up in New York during.
Oh, you went the other way.
We were in protection in New York.
Okay.
That was actually my first night flight. I remember it so clearly because it was like fireworks just going down on the plane. That was my first night flight ever. I'll never forget it. And it's funny because people will be like, you can't remember anything that young. I think people really think kids just don't remember stuff. But I've always said, when something dynamic happens, no matter how young you are, it will leave a stain on your brain. You will
a lasting impression.
Absolutely. So yeah, I remember that very clearly. It was a night flight when we wound up taking off.
We call that an imprint. So it imprints that. But a lot of people, so like I also do EMDR, so I'm EMDR trained, and that's indicated for individuals who have experienced trauma. Mm-hmm. And so there are some individuals that actually can remember being in utero. So what the brain can remember when you have the ability to just access parts of your brain that you don't normally use on a daily basis, and how the memory networks are able to connect when you create the right environment for you to feel safe enough to let those memories go. It's amazing. And so absolutely children can remember specific things. There is a patient. She had something very traumatic happen when her parents took their life, and it wasn't until she got a little bit older that she was able to vividly recall exactly how her father was. Her mother never knew that she even saw her dad. She buried it so much until one trigger on the TV. There was this scene, and it all came back flooding. And so sometimes we don't even know what we're storing and what we're holding on to until all it takes is that one trigger or that one button to be pushed. And now all of these memories of things that you've repressed for years, that you weren't even aware of, that you had no idea it happened to you, come flooding back. And so like the brain is an amazing thing, and just being able to have a safe place to be able to like did this happen? Like, am I remembering what I really remember? Right. And not necessarily casting doubt on yourself, but allowing yourself to go with it so that you can fully work through and process all of those things. Because if you don't, it's going to come back up later. It may show up in a different way that you may not even be able to connect that it's a result or it's residue from this. So really being able, whatever you've gone through your childhood, and not allowing people to tell you, oh, you were too young, you don't remember, we used to have fights and all this other kind of stuff. Well, what do you think has been imprinted in their mind? They might not be able to verbally communicate what's happening, but it definitely might be showing up in the relationships that they have as adults because of the way it was modeled for them to engage with other adults. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just know that it just makes sense. Maybe I'm supposed to show up like this, but no, it comes from someplace. You develop how you are responding based off of something. Now, it's whether you're running from it or running to it. That's for us to figure it out. However, it was implanted and it's stemming from some origin.
And so I have a question. I was going to say really quick, Tonya, for you, I have a question now, because we're talking about childhood traumas and you are a child advocate. And based even on your experience, how do you advocate for a child in environments that are not child friendly?
Yeah, that hurts. So, oh my God. I am right now, I'm on the our Redondo Beach Police Engagement Board. And part of the work that we do is providing transparency and clarity in a lot of different, parts of our community, right? And we are in a city right now. It's crazy. We have a really high, number of anxiety and stress and mental illness in our kids, and this is a pretty wealthy area. So when these kind of reports come out, everybody's like, what? Not us. What do you, not, no, actually y'all, drug abuse and domestic violence and mental illness is really high here. And we knew during COVID that the numbers for child abuse were going up. Yep. I've always been, I've been a coach as long as I can remember. So I've been a coach. I coached junior high school and high school, even before I even had my own kids. So I've always been a safe place for children. I've always been somebody that they can confide in, even when they know I don't like what they're doing, because I know kids act up when they're going through things and they don't know how to deal with it. Personally, I confront it. I have always been someone that if I see it, I confront it. For instance, I might have a kid that's acting up, comes to practice, then the parents come, there's a little disrespectful situation going on. I confront the situation. I'm like, hey, this is what we don't do here. And I either deal with the child or I deal with the parent, and we have these conversations and then provide resources. I try to stay heavy on my resources in regards to how we can help. Also, I wrote my book. So I wanted to make sure that I wrote it in a way that makes it very reader friendly for young people. And I will give them out. And when I did my book tour, I used to, read my chapters. I was also assaulted twice. And I would, after, during the Q&A, leave it open so they would talk. Ma'am, I've gotten as bad as my story is, I've gotten some stories that are 10 times worse from young people in the audience. I actually went at the beginning of my book tour to find a therapist to bring on tour with me to be able to deal with some of this stuff. Because I realized, look, I want to tell my story to help other people, but I am not equipped to deal with some of the stuff that they start letting off. I'm just not. And I also started feeling bad about leaving a situation where they've just opened up about some things that were going on. I never knew it was so hard to find someone that specialized in complex trauma. Because when I started meeting with therapists, they'd be like, I don't do complex trauma. Nope, I do. I met a lady that does, she does sexual trauma, but won't do complex trauma. I'm like, ain't sexual trauma complex trauma? I mean, I'm not an expert, but that's what I'm thinking. And if the girl that I just met at my last book signing said she's been through a horrible sexual trauma, I'm thinking that's pretty damn complex. Or just, I don't know. And they're like, I don't do that. So personally, I do as much as I can in regards to resources and helping them find resources. And I'm a safe place. I'm also a mandated reporter. But at the end of the day, it is finding out what's going on. And I have absolutely no problem calling for help. Like, I've had to do that before. I've had to make the phone call that situations were taking place that were absolutely not okay.
Did you feel like at your time when you were going through this, that the system had your best interest in mind, or did you feel like the system wasn't really designed for children who faced or deal with trauma or put in traumatic situations?
All I knew was my family, so I thought this was normal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't know until you get older and you're like, okay, everybody's family ain't like this.
No, that's what I'm saying. Now that you are older,
oh yeah.
Is if you look at the system and how the steps that they took with you, and then you look at the system now, and I know when I was working in behavioral health and I was working with kids. And one of the things that I had a hard time with is that, back then the system was not, to me, designed to really, truly protect kids. I felt like it was kind of putting a Band-Aid on things. And so I'm just wondering, as you advocate for children now, are there systems now in place that are set up and designed to be more, systematically better for children,
so
compared to when you were younger?
Yeah, I think all of that is true. One, it wasn't set up for kids. We weren't even into mental health to ask if kids were okay, because when we grew up, especially in Black families, kids are to be seen, not heard. Stay out of my business, and we don't talk about what's going on in the family household. So there's that, right? And then the way that our law enforcement was set up too, because I literally encountered police over 100 times before I was 18, no fault of my own, but never once were they like, oh, well, we got to take you, or how are you? For example, my uncle beat up my aunt bad. She calls the police. They come out. He had took her car. They were married. The officer says, you can get a restraining order, or we can just take him to cool off for a while. That's what it was back then. But now, the police department that I happen to sit on their board, they have a domestic violence unit. They bring their care dog out if they know domestic violence is taking place. They bring out a special unit just to make sure if there's children in that situation that they are taken care of. That's why it's so complicated when you hear people saying defund the police, because some departments actually have that. So from someone that has experienced a large amount of domestic violence, I'm like, no, we're not going to defund the police, because I need to know that if there's another family that needs the services that they provide, you're not taking away from that. On top of the fact that you can't just send a therapist like out to my grandma's house when she was about to hit him with that hot pan of grease. You need someone to help her with that. You cannot just send a therapist out there to deal with that. I'm sorry. I know these people. You're not going to de-escalate them. You have to have someone deal with that. So I think we are becoming a society that's more aware of the need for services for children that are in certain situations. We're also becoming more of a thoughtful melanated family, understanding that our kids need more than just to go to church and pray on it. That was not the thing. It was like, we going to church. Okay, everybody acting up. We going to church. Well, we go to church, and my perverted uncle is on the pews. He's preaching. So what are we doing right now?
Wow. Cortina, really quick, I just so I can address this. What is the difference? And so that Tonya would know how to proceed between someone who is a complex, they are a therapist that deals with complex trauma versus someone that deals with sexual trauma. And Tonya, just so you know, she is actually a sexologist, a sexual therapist, that she deals with that too.
So everybody has kind of like their specialty, right? Okay. And so some individuals, their sole focus is on sexual experiences as it relates to trauma. So that may be my wheelhouse. That may be what my focus is on. And so I'm more comfortable with dealing with that type of complex trauma. Whereas if they're dealing with additional issues that I don't feel is in my scope of practice, then I'm going to be like, you know what? I know this part of them I can handle, but the other parts, I don't feel like it's in my scope of practice. And one of the biggest things about our, the oath that we take, we do not operate outside of our scope of practice. So I may be able to deal with this part of them and I'm very comfortable, but these other parts, that is not something that I particularly deal with. And so there are even some other disorders, like most therapists. Some people may say, well, you're a therapist, you should be able to deal with everything. Not even all couples therapists are comfortable with addressing sexual issues inside of the relationship. So yes, I'm coming to you for marriage counseling, but if it starts to get a little too sticky where it comes to sexual interactions, that marriage therapist or that relationship counselor may refer out to a sex therapist, because now if I walk this board, I'm operating outside of my scope of practice. And so it's very important for therapists to understand what their scope is, because if they don't, they might keep the patient still stuck and you're doing all of this work, but you're not actually getting to the right or the root of the issue, and you're not necessarily asking the correct questions. And to go to something that you said earlier, you live in a more affluent area, correct?
Now. Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes it also depends on where you are, like what that looks like, what resources the department has. Yes. Because you have some departments, if I'm just crime, that's all we're working with, and we don't necessarily maybe have the budgeting dollars, or that line item is spent towards something else.
Right.
We don't necessarily have the luxury or the benefits of having those individuals who are a little bit more compassionate, who are a little bit more, concerning, because they had this thing, and it was a state that was up north, one of the ones that was kind of questionable, and they looked at, for the budgeting year, where the dollars went or where the police time went. How much time was spent on homicides? How much time was spent on domestic violence? How much? So like any type of call you could get, they like broke it out into like this whole grid so you can visually see where the money was being spent. And oh my goodness, only 3% of their calls were actually dealt with like crime related types of issues. And when I tell you, I was like blown away. The bulk of the calls were spent on like calls that shouldn't have been calls anyway. Like no one gets in trouble. It's just nothing that did not, manifest anything. You had the traffic stops, like, and I was just like so amazed, not in a good way, but amazed, like, wow. And so in Orange County, where I live, not California, Florida. So in Orange County, where
I was like, girl, you right down the street. We gotta hang out.
Where I live, they did actually implement where mental health counselors, for us, it was never meant for them to go by themselves, but to accompany so they can de-escalate. Yes. And actually, it has been really, really good. So where most were in a lot of the cases, they probably would have been arrested or would have escalated. They had someone to get down on their level and really talk them through. Because we do have to understand, the police are just now starting to get this emotional type of training, because as a police officer, I'm not trained like that. So I'm only trained to do my job that you hired me to do. You did not train me to have compassion. You did not train me to do all of these other things. And so they bring therapists like us in to have sit-ins, trainings with the police officers, so that they are aware, like, oh wow, we never even thought about that. We never even thought about how just our presence can be so intimidating that it causes someone to get on the defense when it's just their fight or flight response. Like I see someone in the uniform and I'm automatically panicking and my hands are sweating and I don't know how to respond. And it's just the automatic response. And how do you de-escalate that? Well, if I'm a therapist and I see you getting a little agitated, I'm going to, try to make sure I got to protect myself. Where I think the more the trainings that they are providing to the different police departments, it's really, really helpful so that they can begin to see a different side where, yes, you all are trained to do, because I definitely can't be running after people because I can barely breathe now. So like, I can't do all of that. And so that they can have someone else with them and say, okay, well, let's look at this another way. Or they even just get outside of their role as a police officer and say, like, okay, maybe my presence could be intimidating. Right. How can I be more on the offense so that this person, they might not be doing what they need to do, but I am not agitating the situation. And so if therapists and mental health professionals and law enforcement, if they can come together to work together, I believe that it will be better for all of the communities. Absolutely. Especially when you have a child like you didn't have the police officer to say, hey, Tonya, how you doing? You okay? You want to come sit? Now, there are a lot of police officers who just do it on their own because they're individuals. But if I'm just like, nope, we got to stop crime, like Batman, we just fighting, in the night terror, I'm not going to be thinking about this little girl over here or this little boy. I'm not really going to care because that's not on my mind. That's not how I've been wired. That's not the job I've been hired to do. So just giving them a little bit of information. There's another way that you can add to the badge, especially in Black neighborhoods where you already have this wall up, because I'm afraid you might shoot me. So now I'm afraid of the police. And so now I want to run away as a little child. If we begin to be able to show them something different, I think the view of law enforcement, especially in urban areas, will begin to shift and change.
I think just the adding the emotional intelligence piece to the training, the situational awareness about where you are and where they're at emotionally. You just you don't have to jump into every situation so aggressively. But, no one ever came at me negatively. They didn't come at all. Exactly what you said. Like, hey, did my job and you're fine. So I'm out. Okay. Good to see you. All right.
Yeah. You ain't crying. You ain't having no temper tantrum.
So you just ask me if I want to leave. No one, never once did someone say, do you feel safe here? Mm-hmm. Do you want to leave? Not one time. Not one time.
Wow. Look, Lisa, did you have a question for Tonya? I think I saw you unmute your mic before.
I think she answered. Really kind of answered the questions that I had. But what I wanted to do is commend you for paying attention to your crowd and allowing that open space for them to talk, and also to know that you do need a therapist with you and that you actually reached out to have that, because a lot of people wouldn't get help if you didn't do that. A lot of children, would not receive help and wouldn't be looked at as needed help if you did not take that initiative and say, you know what, they need to talk to someone, so I do want to commend you on that.
One of the other things I did want to say, if you're, and one of the reasons why you also, because I don't know if your book tour is national, where you may find like a little bit of pushback from therapists, because once we start talking about an issue legally, if we start to say, okay, I'm going to hear this patient about their issue, if they start to open up to us, we are legally now responsible for that person. So like, even like a lot of therapists who give advice or just say different things on like on Instagram and stuff like that, they would say, this is not therapy,
Right.
or, because we want to make sure that we are not now taking on a patient that we cannot see through closure.
Right.
And then counseling cross state lines that you're not licensed in, that's a whole nother thing. So if I start talking to this person, I'm only seeing them this one time. Now I'm opening myself up to a lot of liability. So that may be another reason that you probably saw some hesitation or pushback, because what does this look like? Now I can, be there to talk to you, to give you some resources, but calling it like therapy or counseling or anything like that, oh, that's some murky water right there.
Yeah, I think at one point, and once I started understanding some of that, because I really was like, I need help, please. I just wanted someone to refer them to. So I eventually found someone when I am out and doing my speaking that I can refer them to if they're just in a moment. I can send them somewhere. I was just feeling lost, not having anywhere to send them, because I knew not every therapist just dealt with this, right? And then I also recognized the biggest eye opener is after each of my events, I would be so exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea, even going through it, until I got to talking about it. Even writing about it was one thing, but talking about it, I needed days to recover. Like I had to start spreading them out every 2 weeks. I couldn't do back-to-backs anymore. I was like, this is draining my soul. I did not recognize until I did my tour how toxic and exhausting trauma really, really can be when you don't have an outlet, when you have not dealt with it, when you do start talking about it regularly. And now when people are, when you're talking about it, I can see why you don't always want to just talk about it, because I was so tired. I had never been so tired in my life. Like giving birth was easier than talking about trauma on a regular basis. I could not. That was so eye-opening to me. I digress. Anyway.
Wow. So Tonya, how can people? Well, one, I have her information here of how people can connect to you. So you can reach her at sandandshores.com. And I think it's info@sandandshores.com if they want to email you. And then of course it's Sand and Shores, and Tonya McKenzie Speaks on, I believe, Instagram and
Facebook.
On Facebook. Okay, on Facebook. Do you have any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
No, we're not done. We gotta talk. We gotta hang out. We gotta figure out how we gotta keep this party going.
I know. I'm telling you, know what? We're definitely going to have you. So come back. And I'm in California quite a bit, in the LA, Orange County, San Diego area. Speaking of therapists, and we talk about different traumas and the shifts, and it being Black History Month, I'm going to really shout out my cousin, Ashley McGurk, who stood up the Washington Therapy Fund, and she's looking at creating the California Therapy Fund that offers free therapy. My cousin alone, she is a racial trauma therapist.
Right.
So when we talk about the scope, she actually, one of her specialties and scope of work is around racial trauma. So she is a rapist, and she lives in San Diego now. She got married and left Seattle. So now she's hanging out in San Diego right now. So that's where she lives. And so she's definitely looking at standing up at what she has been able to accomplish in Seattle for mental health. So
I love that.
That would definitely be a resource. We will have to connect, and I'll have to connect with you next time I'm out in California, which last year was ridiculously a lot. And so I'm not sure.
We get to take our masks off on the 15th, girl. So come on.
Yeah, so we're definitely looking to have you back at some capacity, even if as just a guest host, because you have been such a dear. And thank you so much for being so transparent with your story. I am still in shock and blown away, because they always say if I look like what I've been through, man,
You'll be in the concrete somewhere.
Yeah. So
bless you guys. You guys are doing great work. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Black History Month. So Dr. Nadine Burke Harris, since we're on mental health, I'm guessing you guys read about her. She's our very first Surgeon General here in California. Black woman. She bad. She pioneered the ACEs study. I absolutely love her. She is a god to me, because it did bring clarity to a lot of the stuff that I had been researching and trying to figure out about myself, and understanding PTSD and all this bipolar. My brother's bipolar. I didn't even tell you my mom was pregnant when she got shot. And my brother went through bipolar, like, he's just now getting it together. But she helped bring a lot of clarity. So our mental health therapists in this world are gods to me. Y'all are everything, because you help us know we ain't crazy. We just got some things we need to work through.
And I'll email all of you the ACEs, and you can take it yourself.
Take that test.
Please.
I'm 10. Okay, I'm lying. I'm 9. I got 9.
And it's 10
I ain't gonna claim all of it.
And so basically what it does, it gives you an insight into the childhood experiences, that the adverse childhood experiences. So that's what it stands for. And it kind of like projects like how you will be able to show up as an adult. And it's an indicator into like when you have inner city youth take it, or individuals who've gone through trauma, like why they might be presenting the way that they're presenting now. If they have a higher ACEs, the more likelihood that they will have some type of behavioral or reaction to the world around them.
My favorite part of this is, and I'll let you guys go, is how you can build resilient communities to help not re-traumatize people. And that really is just about being a good person, right? Being a good person, being a good contributor to society, and not being someone that continues to re-traumatize people, because you don't know what people have been through. You really don't. So again, I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing, your beautiful Black faces, the sisterhood you show each other, the laughs that I had even backstage. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate you coming out. And again, you have to come as just a guest co-host at some point, just to share some insight and more wisdom with the audience. Thank you. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Whew, Louisa, I know you probably have to run. Okay.
I got to go around the corner. I don't even know why I started saying that. You can catch me at the Blue Phoenix Hills on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, you guys.
All right. Bye, hon. See you next week. Okay, ladies. Oh my gosh. I have never been more, I don't even have words for how I'm feeling right now across the board for so many things that she said. Because, one of the things I have such a space when it comes to not just literacy, but just children understanding how to love themselves and love themselves through the things that they see. And I've never really put into context. Well, I kind of did, because me and Cortina's had this conversation about a book about children being able to speak and be vocal about their emotions and their feelings and all of those things. So a lot of stuff she said hit home, because, childhood trauma is so real, and it would be so great to find a way to not traumatize our children because of what we went through in our childhood. Right. And another way that we do that is when we overcompensate to our children, trying to fix what's wrong with us as adults. Mm-hmm. And that's not healthy either. So, like I said, so many things that she said resonated with, myself, my past experience in therapy, therapy is when I was on the opposite side working with children in Philly. And even working with adults for the military. On doing prevention and stress and anger management prevention courses. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that people bottle up. So I'm so glad that she came on here and was super transparent, because, sometimes you don't realize. I didn't know that's what we were getting. I didn't. But I'm glad that we did, considering we started the conversation talking about mental health. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sad I missed that. I was actually in my own therapy session, and we covered a lot of this stuff. So I'm like, dang, I'm gonna have to go back and listen. But yeah.
Yeah. We talked about taking care of yourself first.
That's part of it. You gotta take care of yourself first. Yep. Gotta take care of yourself first.
Yeah. So Cortina, how can people get in touch with you? And what do you have going on that people should know about?
I'm trying to think. I'm expanding, and I'm changing the name of Boundless Living. So it's no longer going to be Boundless Living. It's going to be the Noir Center for Intuitive Healing and Counseling. So I actually love my logo, the new one. So that's a whole thing that I'm working through. And noir stands for black in French. And so it's really important for me, again, as you can see, like I got black inspired stuff like everywhere I go, in my office, in this office. And so it's really about refining the luxury of healing. And this luxury is not about money, but it's about how we view healing and therapy as important aspects. Just like we have to have food, it's important to have healing. And so about refining that entire mindset about how we look at therapy and healing. So that is the direction that the business is taking. So I'm in a different, and so that's what it's going to be looking like. And I'm super excited. So
well, mental, you want to talk about wealth. Wealth is mental currency.
yeah.
That's what I call it. It's mental currency. It's something that's can't be bought. It's something that you have to just have and own. And that alone is just a level
I'll
of peace.
try to share it.
Okay. The Noir Center. Okay.
Yes.
That's beautiful too.
Thank you. So that is the new design. I was just up late one night and I wrote like a whole 3-page, like what it means, the luxury of healing, how it stands apart, like the different aspects that's going to come with it, the color scheme of how the building is going to be decorated and what it means. And so
and y'all, just so y'all know, this is like after show of what we actually be doing sometimes when she don't have to rush off to therapy or somebody don't have to rush off. This be our conversation. So I'm so glad that I'm still running this, even though we're doing towards the end. But I'm so glad that that you are expanding as we've talked about it. So I'm so excited to see it, and can't wait to visit it when I'm down in Orlando.
Yeah, you have to. Oh yeah, won't you be here in May? I think or something.
I need to plan to come.
No, sometime. I don't know.
I know it's gonna be October for sure, October 8th. But I in my mind, I was like trying to manifest you coming sooner.
Okay,
so, like speaking it into existence.
I know we're gonna all have to, do the meetup again. So we did that before. It was so nice.
Because I'd be hungry.
Oh, yeah, that part.
Come, but listen,
that part.
2 weeks because I'm about to be leaving for work.
Yeah, so let's get on. Let's get on with this, Miss T Weezy. How can people find you and then share your news?
So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I am T Weezy. I just got an opportunity as a government contractor to work in New York for a period of time. Ooh. So I'll be gone about 45 days at a time, and I'll get to visit home in between. I also have an event that I am curating, you guys, in Dallas, Texas. This group that I'm a part of, a collective, it's called the Black Lens, and it's going to be February 26th. You can register at theblackmarketdallas.com.
Nice.
And there's going to be educational speakers, headshots provided, professional headshots if you like that, a mixer, and just a networking, mingling environment. So you guys check it out when you get a chance. I'll be posting about it too on my social media accounts on Instagram.
All right. Well, holy cannoli. And while I sit and talk about, this, I can be found everywhere at I am Dr. P. Gurley. But just a reminder that, the tip jar is, if you love this show, there's a tip jar right at the bottom. www.buymeacoffee.com / Herspiration HH. Feel free to tip if you love you love it. Also, leave a comment. If you're listening to our podcast on any of the platforms, drop comments. We love feedback, and to me, constructive feedback. You can, I always say everything is not made for everybody. If you like it, you like it. If you love it, you love it. And if you don't care for it, turn it off. I'm just saying. You're always going to catch us real raw and relative. And that's one of the things that I love about this podcast. As far as me, I might have to move and shift some stuff around, but in the interim, there are a few places that you will be able to find me that are not advertised yet, but will be coming very soon. I will be my new book in the Brown Boy and Brown Girl series, Brown Girl and Brown Boy Be Well. This will be the first in the series where Brown Boy and Brown Girl are actually in one book. It will still come out in English, French, and Spanish. I'm going to start book signing. My first book signing will be at Hakeem's Bookstore, a gift shop in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And one of the good things and reasons why I chose that is the oldest bookstore in Philly.
Wow.
Yes, and so that will be held on Saturday, March 26th. Like I said, it'll be right afterwards. The Eventbrite will be coming out really soon, so stay tuned on my social media. The second place that I will be right after that on April 2nd would be Black Dot Culture Center. I will be doing a book signing, and that is in Lithonia, Georgia, right outside the Atlanta area. And that would be from 2 to 4. And I think the other one is from 1 to 3. Yeah, it's from 1 to 3 in Philly, 2 to 4 in Lithonia, Georgia. So all that information will be coming out very, very soon, where you can get tickets on Eventbrite. It is free, but if you want to purchase your ticket in advance, especially with COVID, it makes it very easy for me to already have things signatured. If you want a picture, it's a lot easier for me just to hand you your signed copy and take a picture if that's what you want. But, I will also be coming in other cities. The other thing, I have my kickoff for my kids' red carpet book signing tour that in Jackson, Mississippi. That will be coming up May the 14th. Everything right now is still TBD. I'm still working out all the logistics of it and the sponsorships. I really want to have the opportunity to give children free books this time as a part of it. So I'm definitely seeking sponsorships and donations towards it, because this is really all about the children. And it's not even really about selling books for me. It's literally my push for literacy. If I could give every child a free book, I certainly would, but then I would probably be extremely broke. I give a lot to these events because it's a opportunity for children to do something unique and have fun. There's not a lot of kids who will ever get to walk a red carpet, know what that feels like. I got my little junior publicist, Morgan, that does little interviews. There's free face painting. There's cameras. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and it takes a lot to set up. And even though breaking down is easy, but it's really, truly a day for the children. So, yeah. And so a lot of information about that will be fast coming, starting probably around the middle of this month, which is coming soon. I think the tickets for Philadelphia start February 14th on Eventbrite. And so you'll see me posting about that really soon. And now I'm setting up with the one in Atlanta or Lithonia. And I had that call with, the owner last night. So everywhere pushing these books and the value of it. But the Be Well books is all about health and hygiene of our children. And guess what's so unique about this book too that I love?
They all meet and are intermixed.
This will be the first book that in the series, because I have kids in all of them, and it's very cultured with different, 8 races. There's a young child that wears a hijab in this book.
Okay. Oh, nice.
So yes, so that's going to be something that representation really truly means something to me. I think as a child, you should be exposed to everything. When you open up a book, you should be able to see yourself, see your friends, see people that, that don't look like you, but are in your classroom, are in grocery stores. And you don't have to wonder, well, why are they wearing this? Because it becomes a norm. Children can associate more things with reality when they can make it make sense in front of them and just look and say, oh, I know somebody in my class that wears one of those.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with me. There's a lot of stuff that's coming. And so I'm just working really hard over here for our little, our children. And then for the Herspiration Happy Hour brand, of course, you can find us at dawentertainment.com/podcast. If you want to be on a show, all of the information is there. We are booked, and right now slots for April. We have nothing until April.
Mm-hmm.
Every Wednesday, we will have a guest on the show. And right now, the next availability is not until April 20th.
Wow.
Wow. That's good.
And so kudos. If you want to get in, I'm telling you, you might want to get in now. You can register for the podcast. It's very simple. You don't even have to contact us anymore. Just go to dawentertainment.com/podcast. It'll give you all the instructions on how to be in on the show. I will tell you so that people don't keep emailing saying that, that, hey, you do the first action, but you don't do the second one. When you register, right after you click that send button or submit button, you will receive an email with a calendar invite where you can schedule your podcast. If you don't do that, you will not be on the calendar. So if you see your slot, it can very well be taken quickly. So make sure and you click on that calendar, schedule your date, and then you will receive podcast instructions after that. Right before your podcast, you will hear from me because I send your promos and your links and any information that's necessary for the podcast. So ladies, I love you all. I appreciate you all. And, we love our audience and appreciate every time you all come out and hang out with us and download. This is an episode that you definitely want to go back and listen to if you've missed it. We are on YouTube. Of course, you can watch it here again on Facebook. And we're also on Twitch. We are all over everywhere on podcast platforms, but you can also go to our website and that I had up, and we run, there's a bar that runs through Apple Music or Apple Podcasts because, that's where we're on. Amazon Podcasts, we're everywhere. So any last words for our listeners and watchers?
No.
All righty. Well, like we always say at the end of the show, cheers.
Still.